Hey everyone, got a brilliant attacking game for you today between Judit Polgar and Nigel Short. I spotted this actually in Matthew Sadler and Natasha Regan's new book, Game Changer, where it talks about the games between Alpha Zero and Stockfish. And this game was actually given as an example of an attacking play similar to Alpha Zero's. So if you're interested, I definitely recommend that you buy this book. And I think they've got their own YouTube channel, so it's definitely worth checking out. But anyway, on to the game between Polgar and Short. Here Polgar is white and Short is black. And this was played in Dortmund, 1997. Polgar kicked off with e4 and Short plays a Sicilian. And knight f3, e6 and d4. C takes d4, knight takes d4. And Short plays queen b6 here, which is actually quite an unusual move. Knight b3 is played by Polgar and a6 from Short. Knight c3, d6 and now bishop f4, developing the bishop. Knight f6 and queen d2 from Polgar. After bishop e7, white castles queenside and black castles kingside. And straight away white exudes loads of pressure on this d6 pawn with the bishop and the queen. So you might be asking, why doesn't white just simply take this off? So if bishop d6 here, well actually black can take on d6, queen takes and then just queen takes f2. So it's an even trade, both sides gain a pawn. And it's pretty even here actually. So white doesn't really gain an advantage from taking that pawn off. Bishop e2 was actually an option I was thinking of here, and offering the f2 pawn for free. If queen takes f2 by black, white can play rook h f1, and if black now starts to get greedy with queen takes g2, white can play rook to g1, and after queen h3 play rook g3. If queen moves to h4, rook dg1, and now g7 is under threat, so g6, and white can play bishop g5 attacking the queen. And again, if black takes on h2, black's actually won 3 pawns here, but after rook g2, queen e5, the only move, bishop f4, and the queen has no more squares to go to. The only move for black here is to play knight takes e4, attacking white's queen, but then white can play queen e3, and the knight is lost and the queen is still under threat. Black can continue with queen h8 and knight takes e4. So if we do a bit of counting here, black's actually got 4 pawns for the knight, but it seems as though white's position is so much better. After d5, knight g3, knight c6, the idea is simple for white, just to play knight to h5, bishop to h6, and that queen on h8 looks terrible, and it's really got no more squares to go to. So white is actually doing really well here. So bishop e2 was an option. The thing is though, after queen takes f2, rook h f1, black doesn't have to take the pawn on g2. If queen b6, white can actually win the pawn back with bishop takes d6 and just swap everything off. After knight c6, rook fd1, you have to say though that actually white does have a really nice game here. So white's got the open file and it should be a nice middle game, an end game for white. Of course, after a move like bishop e2, black doesn't have to take on f2, so that's the major problem. So in the game, Polgar actually plays g4. And if you've seen my previous videos, this is very similar to Alpha Zero's games, where they sacrifice the g-pawn and the h-pawn to gain open files against the black king. So here Short was very brave and took on g4 and rook g1 from Polgar, attacking the knight. And the knight moves to e5. And now Polgar plays queen e2, maybe threatening to go queen h5, and her idea is to play bishop e3, maybe f4 to kick that knight away, and white will have a nice attack. In the game, Short played queen c7, and bishop e3 from Polgar, maybe threatening to play f4, b5 from Short, and now f4 is played to kick the knight away. Knight c4 is played by Short, and bishop d4 now from Polgar, so straight away attacking this g7 pawn. In the game, Short played g6, f6 was another option, but I think after rook d3 and rook f7, f5, white's doing very well. Black can't play e5 due to knight d5, so if e takes f5, white can play e takes f5. And if bishop takes f5, play rook dg3, and knight d5 is a big threat again. If knight c6, play bishop g2, and bishop d5 is also a threat. And there's no way to defend this for black. Rook af8 is given by Stockfish as the best move, but then just bishop d5, and white's going to win the exchange, and rook takes g7 is actually a threat because the rook on f7 is pinned. So I think in the game g6 was the best move, which is what Short played, but Polgar now plays queen h5, and that can't be taken due to the pin on the g file. So Short played knight d7, developing another piece, and maybe threatening to play knight f6. However, Polgar continues her attack. She played queen h6, threatening checkmate on g7. Knight f6 was an option that could have been played by Short to block that bishop on d4, but white can play bishop takes c4 here. After b takes c4, e5 is a really strong move, attacking the knight and also attacking d6. If black captures, the bishop will capture, and after queen c6, knight d2, white's got a really nice advantage. The black square's under white's control, and all white needs to do now is get rid of that knight on f6 with a move like knight to e4 from either knight. So if rook d8 here, knight ce4, and if the knight moves, queen g7 is checkmate. So black is forced to play knight e8, but now just comes knight g5, threatening queen h7, which is a killer blow. So bishop takes g5 is forced. After f takes g5, let's say bishop b7, white can play rook g4, and rook h4 is pretty much unstoppable, and it's game over for black in this position. So white does have an array of attacking options at her disposal here. In the game, Short played bishop f6, contesting the black squares, but Polgar now plays sharply with rook to d3, threatening rook h3 and queen takes h7. Bishop takes d4 is played by Short, Polgar captures on d4, and Short plays rook to e8. To make space for the knight, after rook h3 from Polgar, knight f8 to protect h7, and black is just about holding on here. Now here Polgar actually missed a really nice move. f5 was really strong, threatening to play f6, and then queen g7. Queen e7 is the only way to hold on, and after bishop takes c4, b takes c4, white can play rook f3, threatening again to play f6 and forcing the queen to take it. So e takes f5 is forced, and after e takes f5 again f6 is a renewed threat, so bishop takes f5 is played, and after knight takes f5, white's actually won a piece. Queen e5 is the only move to defend g7 here. Again, the pawn on g6 can't take the knight because it's pinned by this rook. And after a move like queen h4 here, knight h6 is threatened and black's just a piece down in a lost position. So f5 here would have actually won the game really quickly. Instead Polgar played e5 here, not as good as f5 but still very strong. Short played d5 trying to lock everything down. And here actually another good move that white could play would have been knight to f5. And if e takes f5, knight takes d5 and knight f6 is threatened. And what is black to do here? The only move is literally queen c6. And after queen c6 white does have to be a bit careful, because knight to f6 actually loses for white. Queen takes f6 could be played, and after e takes f6 black can play rook e1 checkmate. So black needs to watch out for the cheapos here. Instead white could just play bishop g2 first, and knight f6 is a renewed threat, and the rook on g1 guards any back rank mates. So knight f5 here was really a good idea. But Polgar continued with bishop d3, she still has a very strong position. And Short actually gives up a piece here. He plays knight takes e5, and after f takes e5, queen takes e5. Short's actually destroyed white's centre for a piece to try and gain some counterplay, probably the right decision in the game. Queen h4 protects the knight, Short develops with bishop b7, and Polgar plays rook f3. Rook ac8 is played by Short, trying to gain some counterplay, but knight ce2, and Polgar is easily holding on here. After rook c7, Polgar plays the very interesting rook f6, just blocking everything up, and it's quite an interesting move to have your rook on f6. But after rook e7, white plays king d2 to stop any queen e3 checks. Rook ed7 from short and a3 from Polgar, so basically just trying to limit any counterplay from black here. So white's a piece up and just needs to hold on. King g7 attacks the rook, but now Polgar plays knight to f4, which is a really nice move. So if queen takes f6, white can play knight to h5 check, and again this g-pawn is still pinned, and white's going to win this queen with ease. And even after a move like queen takes d4 here, knight h5 again can be played with check, and black's going to lose the queen. So after knight f4, rook c8 is played by short, and Polgar plays another move, rook g5, where literally every single piece is in the attack now. Queen c7 is played, and Polgar comes up with a genius knight f takes e6 check. Black is forced to take. After rook takes e6, black can't capture on e6 due to knight takes e6 with check, and will win the queen. So after rook takes e6, short plays queen a5 check, b4, and queen takes a3. Black's trying to gain some counterplay, but it's too little too late. Knight f5 is played by Polgar, check, king g8, knight e7 check, rook captures, and queen c3 from short. But here white is actually a rook up, and after king e2 there's no more checks. Short plays d4, and after queen f4, short just resigns. Queen takes f7 is pretty much unstoppable, and white can also take the bishop on b7 if she wants to. So again, this was an amazing game, a great attacking demonstration from Polgar, playing this g4 move, and definitely try and implement this in your own games. I've only just learnt about this idea, and I think it's amazing. Anyway, please like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.